going to call to order this special meeting of the Willington Board of Education. It is January 23rd, 2019 at 6 p.m. and we're here for the budget workshop. We always include at the beginning of our agenda time for present to speak. We have a lot of people here tonight, so we're happy to hear from you. I ask that you please identify yourself and your address when you first stand up to speak, to make it clear for the minutes. And also we ask that you limit your comments to 5 minutes apiece. You can be shorter than that. You can stand up and say 1 sentence if that's what you prefer. But because there's often one person, sometimes it's me, that is long-winded, I will set a timer for the 5 minutes when each person starts. So it's not a loud radar horrible sound when it goes off. It's a lovely little xylophone. So do not panic. It's not going to, like, you know, we're not going to have the hook and pull you off the stage. But just so that we're able to keep this within a certain set of time and give everyone a chance to express their opinions, we like that. So.
There's also several people in the audience that submitted letters, so if you want to say the board has.
That makes a lot of sense. The board has received a good bit of email of letters from all of you, and we have read those. If you want to say something that was not included in that, or if you just want to stand up and say that you did right, that's fine too. There's no need for you to repeat everything that's in the letter for the sake. For the sake of.
Read them.
They just.
Okay.
I'm sorry, you said we read them, but I haven't.
I'm sorry. If we haven't read them, we will read them in the next 24 hours. We are not voting tonight on the budget. The vote for this will take place at our regular Board of Education meeting, which is in roughly 2 weeks, the 12th or so of February. So tonight is a chance for us to make some small adjustments due to some changes and assumptions that we've learned about, and to go over a couple of programs that we have not heard of before. And there will then also at the end of the agenda be time for present to speak again. While this is not a regular meeting, this is a special meeting, we do consider these meetings held in public, not necessarily public meetings for us to answer all of your questions. That said, we take public participation very seriously, and we want to hear from each of you. Your opinions and the fact that you came out on a snowy night matters to us. We want to hear what you have to say. So with that, is there anyone who'd like to start us off? Okay.
Hi, my name is Sarah Parcell. I live at 75 Timber Lane. First, I would like to thank all the teachers, staff, and administrators at Willington Public Schools. You have given children of Willington an environment to thrive in ways I never thought possible, and I thank you for giving them the opportunities they have been given. I wish only the best for the students in Willington now and in the future. It is my hope that all members of the community recognize the value of a solid education. While we can be creative in planning programs, cutting funding in education, especially in areas, that directly impact our students, is not what our community and society should focus on. It is not just a slogan to say that our youth is our future. Our youth truly is our future, and they should have opportunities that allow them to reach their full potential so that they can thrive in this world and be happy and successful individuals. Isn't that what we all want for our children and grandchildren? Thank you once again to all the educators for caring about our kids, keeping a safe environment for them, and letting them thrive on a daily basis. I urge you to not cut funding and programming for our kids. We want our community to continue to be successful. Thank you.
And we got your name and address at the start of that? Okay. Someone else?
Judy 319 Birch Meadow Lane. I spoke on this issue last year. I had strong feelings about cutting, eliminating staff that has contact with children in our school system. I sent you an email. The one-line synopsis of the past is that there's proven research that shows that schools with librarians have higher test scores than schools without librarians. I think having a librarian is invaluable to our school system because the other position is not as well established. There's too much variety between schools on that. The STEM person, the STEAM person. There's not a lot of research on that. Last year, we brought to you 300 names on a petition that had signed that don't want the librarian position eliminated. I hope that that's still there. I mean, it hasn't gone away. I have a new perspective this year because I am now the parent of a high schooler. I have a son who just finished midterms at E.O. Smith. Eye-opening this year. He was a straight A student at Hall. Didn't have a lot of difficulty getting straight A's. First set of exams at E.O. Smith, D's and C's. I will tell you he was willfully unprepared. He was using the same skill set that he used at Hall, the same techniques that to study he used at Hall, and was taught at Hall, and the same effort, and got a very minimal result. And we have had to really, really, really work at teaching him those skills all over again. So when you're talking about taking away the people who make a difference in their lives, like the librarian and the STEAM person, who teach them how to critically think, it scares the daylights out of me for Katie and all the other Willington kids. I also had a meeting with the counselor when we had our normal little freshman meeting on what classes to take, and he had a message for you. He had a message that said, the 7th and 8th grade students here do not get enough homework, and they come to E.O. Smith willfully unprepared. That's on you. I've given that feedback to the 7th grade team. Katie doesn't get homework. I don't remember the last time she had more than 20 minutes of homework to read at night. I don't want our services cut. I don't even imagine how hard your job is, and I have more respect for you guys than I ever have. I can't imagine the challenges, but I don't think cutting positions is the answer. I think, and I hope, and I would help you in any way I could, to take a step back, because this is a trend line, and next year I don't want it to be 3 positions, and then the year after that it's 4 positions. Your fixed costs are going to go up every single year, and something has to be done. I don't know if we go back to the 2017 study and start with that and see what we can do. I don't know if we need to go for a one-school town, but this is non-sustainable in the direction that we're going, and I would support you in whatever you need to do in order to have our kids be prepared for high school and for life. Thank you for what you do.
Next.
Yeah, I didn't prepare any written words here, but yeah, I think that I was shocked to find out that we don't teach social studies and science all year long. And like you, my niece, my step-niece, whatever, went from Willington to E.O. Smith and had the same experience. Just a really, really, really difficult time. My suggestion at this point would be to cut the positions. Cut the librarian and cut the maker. I don't really know what that is. These are not classroom teaching positions. I would add a teacher so that we can be teaching science and social studies like all the rest of the school all year long. I have other comments regarding the budgeting and the school maintenance, and I think that's on the agenda tonight. I sincerely do not believe that we can build a brand new school and maintain budget flexibility. I think that would lock us into a payment expenses that we can't really afford to do. So in terms of, and I would just say the upkeep as we go along, and that's not Band-Aids. So I would say that we capital expenditure every year to maintain the schools we have, not Band-Aids, and then not move forward with a brand new school system. I don't think we need it. I don't think it's necessary. I think what matters is the teaching in the classroom. And I'm really upset to know that we're not getting enough homework and things like that. So that's my opinions, and that's all. And thank you.
Say your name for the record, please.
Oh, it's Matthew Clark.
Okay. Next. Okay. We'll have a observers for now, and maybe one of you will be inspired to speak after we've gone through the rest of the agenda then. Okay, so we are going to follow up on the superintendent's 2019-2020 spending plan on the budget. We had a couple of things under
Yeah, so I just wanted to
program
give you
two.
a couple updates here. Herb, you had asked Donna about the grand list. We do not know the grand list number yet, whether it's going up or down. I guess Monday is the final day for the grand list, but we'll find out.
So it's due by the 31st of January, but I believe Walter's planning to sign the grand list on Monday, as that's the last date he'll be in his office.
So that was the answer to question number one. I emailed you an updated group of programs. You should have a copy there. And I just wanted to go through what some of those changes were, and so you understood them. And this is getting on the agenda for program 1 and 2 to start. Program 1, I just wanted to make sure there's, in the grant offset on program 1, if you go to that second page of program 1, I don't believe I gave you a new copy of this.
No, hang on a second.
And I wanted to make sure that, because it's just a number, Donna and I have spent some time on this, the grants. If you look at the grant offset for Title I, in the middle column where it says 50,000, that is the number that Jackie put in expecting to apply towards, that's what she was expecting to apply towards the budget this year.
So we don't see, can you explain it better?
So, program 1,
Found it.
Title 1,
Thank you.
the second column says 50,000. That number, when I applied for the grant this year, because of our current status, and you know the budget is frozen, I applied all $75,963 to program 1. So that's in 18-19. It's a little bit different, it's a little bit more than what we expected. But when Jackie wrote the grant, or thought, so you can see where I have 75,963 in the third column too. That's what we're expecting to get next year, but you don't apply for it until next year. Does that make sense? So the middle column where it says 50,000 really should now say $75,963. She thought some of that money was going to go towards professional development and tutoring, and I did not. I applied it, I think, every dollar towards salary. Okay? So that was just one minor change to program 1. Program 2, I gave you a copy of after our last meeting. I wanted to go through and give you an update. Trying to not play the worst case scenario here based on the information I have, but I think I kind of need to make sure we plan for what fiscally we expect. So I gave you a snapshot of that one of the teachers who had their position eliminated, their certification allows them to bump another teacher because their certification applies to someone else's certification, a position that's already there. So they could bump another person, so the savings isn't the entire amount. Does that make sense? So one person might be making 80,000, one person might be making 60,000. And because the $80,000 person is going to stay, and I don't know that, I'm just giving you an example, the $60,000 person that is the person that gets cut, you have less savings. That also applies to benefits. So now we've adjusted benefits, which is why I wanted to make sure I did this ahead of time so you could see that it was accurate. Okay? Questions on that program 2 adjustment. So if you look at program 2 now, you're going to see the $18,000 increase in salary, and when I'm done with this, we're actually going to have a bit of it's like a $400 difference when I'm done explaining these. So in program 2, you'll see an $18,000 increase in your salary line item from this updated page.
Or if you're looking at the summary, it's the 17,228 under program 2 at the top of the bulleted summary that doesn't look like a spreadsheet.
So that's also going, and then that's, by the way, all contract language. That's not Phil Stevens' decision or administrative decision. It's based on seniority and certification. All right. Program 3. I received a letter of retirement on Friday. We have a special education teacher who is retiring at the end of the year. And so I have her letter, so we have adjusted program 3 so that we're basing that on a new teacher coming in with a master's degree step 1, as opposed to a teacher that's retiring after 33 years in top step. And that is usually what we budget for, is master's step 1. So that is what we're budgeting for now. So your adjustment that you see in your salary line item in program 3 has been adjusted. And the difference right now between program 2 and program 3 is pretty much a wash. Keep going.
Yep.
Good down there, Steph?
Yeah,
Dana?
I'm not matching it up.
It's okay, I'll fix it.
I crossed off, if it helps you, I kept full sheets, but I crossed off my old program 3, so you can see what the old one was.
Okay, so it's a new help.
Yep.
So the new teacher will be in step 1.
Well, we don't know who the new teacher would be, but when we are going to hire someone, a good kind of middle-of-the-road spot where you're going to hire someone, we expect that when we have UConn graduates, they graduate with a master's degree with no experience. So that's what we expect, a master's degree, step 1. Sometimes below that, sometimes you get someone with just a bachelor's, sometimes you get someone with 5 years of experience or 10 years of experience with a 6 degree, you just don't know.
Is it possible to hire someone with step 3 and that's it?
Sure.
Well,
Sure.
Because you have to factor in experience there.
I think in Donna, you can speak to this too, is that historically, well, this is the number you base it on because it balances out over time. So when you have 4 positions open, you'll see a balance, and it's based upon the application pool. If you have 4 applicants and they all have doctorates, and those are your 4 applicants, you have to pay them for their doctorate. But we don't budget based upon the highest step. We've always budgeted on master's step 1.
The master step 1.
But that said, the difference between a step 1 and a step 3 has to come from somewhere. We don't have a contingency line anywhere in here to make up for hiring for extra expertise.
That's correct. Good with program 3? Program 6, adjustments. Their Title II grant, and you should have 3 pages here, I think, with updates. I did the grant page 2. There's 2 appendix that have grants on them, and then this page as well. The program 6 page curriculum and staff development. The grant Title II offset, we actually have $1,600 more, and so we applied $1,600 more. That's every dollar of the grant. And so we applied it to bring the budget total down, $1,600. Oh, I misspoke, sorry. I did not bring the budget total down there. I increased because we had cut professional development, and that was one of your goals. I increased the top line support for curriculum development up top, curriculum leadership, to $9,100. My apologies. I had made it $7,500 before.
So the
It's
bottom
flat,
line is
there's
the
no
same.
change. No change in the bottom line, correct. Good with program 6? Yeah, it's that one, right? Yeah. And then program 10, the fringe benefits, because of the retirements and the adjustment, if there's a bump, it's all reflected in here in benefits now. And so based upon what those folks have identified, and again, her master's step 1, and we plan for single insurance. So if someone comes in and requests family, it's more money. About $13,000, I think, more money. Questions about program 10 changes? So based upon that, all those changes, what did I tell you, it's about $493 difference or something like that. The exact number, 453 is the difference, and so it has the budget now at 2.93%. So I wanted to share those changes because this is a document in motion. Questions about any of the changes?
Okay, so seeing no questions currently, we will certainly have time for questions afterwards, but let's move ahead to look at Program 8, Operations and Maintenance, and then Program 9, System-Wide Support.
Okay. Operations and maintenance is basically, this is our facilities and maintaining our facilities, the people that maintain our facilities, the contracts. A portion of the contract is in here for maintaining a facility, and a portion that was imported out, so I'll explain those things as I go. As far as positions go, we don't have one secretary that's assigned to maintenance. Nicole Page at Hall School does all the POs. This is, again, I will call it a position of many. She wears a lot of hats. This is one of them. And so she does everything maintenance-wise as far as sending in POs, collecting information from our head custodians, and so that's why there's 0.15 of her position. That applies to both schools, and if there is anything in my office, which is rare, it would be for me as well.
So that's not an increase in staffing at all, it's just a redistribution?
It is an adjustment, it's not new staff. It's just, it's making the numbers real and knowing how the dollars are applied, because that's a big portion of her job. I know there was a lot of conversation in the past about what do our folks do. Sometimes you just have one person that does all of the maintenance work, secretarial work for our district, or one person does all the transportation. And there's pieces of this to accomplish all these programs across a few of them.
Yes, and I just wanted, that was one of the things I learned last year, because I come from a bigger school than the two schools combined, and I was asking about secretary, and one thing we have to understand when you have a small district is that you don't have centralized people doing a lot of the work. You have people in the schools do that work, so, which makes sense now. I think it's good that you split it that way.
As far as custodians go, it was 223. The 2 in 18-19, you basically had 3 there, but the third was a sub. But what they were trying to do was float a sub for a period of time, and it was really impacting Hall School. Hall School is about 60,000 square feet, and so the adjustment now, it's the same number of people, it's still 5 total between custodians and maintenance custodians, but you see the shuffle of maintenance custodians went from 3 to 2, we had a person retire, and regular custodians went from 2 to 3. There is 1 night custodian at Center School, and there are 2 night custodians at Hall, and they cover about 30,000 square feet apiece, which is an awful lot. So that's your staffing. You can see that it shows now the secretarial amount there. That, again, that's just a fraction. The custodial piece went up because now we hired someone, 2 brand new people actually on the bottom of the scale as far as the contract goes. And so that's why that number went up, and then the maintenance custodians line went down because we went from 3 to 2. Okay. Summer work, was, I think that's like a 3% increase. Those are people that we hire to do all the painting, all of the extra things to get the buildings prepared for the summer, and you know, throughout the summer, and to get them prepared for the start of school. Purchase services, property insurance, you see the amount there. And again, that's a number that's basically told to us. Here's what you have to pay for property insurance. MCOR, I moved MCOR out because you were trying to get a snapshot of what it costs to, in the buildings to run center school and hall school. And I thought preventative maintenance should come out of that, the lines in Program 1 and Program 2. And so that $9,000 was just shuffled. It's now shuffled, it's in Program 1 and Program 2. The one thing I will tell you about that though, is that number, you've had, I don't know how many, but you've had several prepays for the following year. If there's a little bit of money left at the end of the year where you can prepay a contract, it's good to continue your contracts. And you're not going to have that this year, and so that's not a number that's going to be prepaid. If we have some money left, I'd be surprised. So just know that that wasn't prepaid in the past.
Now that building maintenance figure is zero, but we read it in Program 1.
Correct.
And
Preventative
in
maintenance.
Program 1, it seems to me that most of the money allocated there is for servicing certain things like fire extinguishers, inspections, and things like that. But is there anything in there as a cushion for maintenance itself? So if something unforeseen happens, we have our contract items taken care of, but if it's something unusual or different than that, where do we go?
You have, in Program 1, you have about $23,750 in that building maintenance line. I would say probably 75% of that is contractual. That's MCOR.
75% of it.
Yeah, it's quite a bit. I think it's, Don and I were talking about this. I think it's about the number. He thought there was going to be about around $4,000 to $5,000, $5,000 to $6,000.
So we have some money in there for emergencies.
Yes, it's not a contingent, I wouldn't call it a contingency though, because any of the things that they need to fix, you know, it's you know, that's not a big project. That's small things throughout the year. Their paint comes out of that line, it's not a big line. I just got a bill from MCOR for a project they're trying to do at Hall School, and it was $4,000. I have to say no. It's got to go on.
So if we have something major, we can't go to this account, but we'll have to go to Board of Finance.
You don't have any contingency plans built into this budget. I don't think you have ever had contingency plans. I think the expectation has always been, wait till the end of the year. If you have some money left and there's a project that needs to happen, that's the point where you do it, or you go back and you ask. There's no contingency built.
I have a question, I don't know if I forgot from last time, I didn't take a note. So in spite of moving that $9,000 from MCOR, the built-in maintenance budget went down for both Program 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
And why did it go down? In spite of moving, like,
It's still, because I decreased it some, but they're going to have less.
so it would just cut it?
Yeah. Yeah, and that $9,000 is almost half. Yeah. It's not exact because it depends on.
So that's even adding that in is still lower.
That's the theme. Yes.
So we only have about 5,000 for maintenance.
Correct.
That's, I don't want to call it the contingency fund, but
That's
that's
their,
the amount of money we'd have available.
yes. Something fails, that's where they're going. They also have a custodial supplies line, and that supplies line in Program 8, district-wide, it's more of your soap, your paper towels, it's all those items.
Okay.
And that's down 4%. So overall, this budget total is down $7,000 out of this account. Our folks do a great job, I'll be honest with you. I mean, for the amount of building space we have and the number of people, we've had a couple studies done, and they've always said, you should have a director of facilities. You should, and Erica and I have talked about this for multiple buildings in town. You should have, you know, someone that's just directing and in charge of ordering. It's not the way we do things. We like to wear a lot of hats here. And all the studies have said you need more people, and the folks that we have do a great job for us with what we have.
Questions on program 8? Moving on to program 9, system-wide support.
Okay, my apologies for not having this on last time. So you see the .85, again, that's Brenda. Obviously, on top there, the administrative assistant is .85. .15 of her is in transportation, because it's a portion, that's where we break her out, that's what she does. And when you see the purchase service line here, so many of these things are just, they're set. The magnet school tuition is a state formula. And you can, I have the formula, Donna gave me the tuition rates by school, and they are all over the board. Some are $1,900, some are $5,000, there's a couple that are in the $6,000 range. So we're required to pay whatever the negotiated rate is out of that tuition rate, and so we have to budget for that, and you know that's something that I'm working on to figure out if there's a trend as far as why some of those folks are going out.
But, so 27, how many kids is that? There can't be many, it's 27.
Around 5. We're budgeting for what we know.
And that doesn't include transportation? Do we pay for transportation?
No.
We don't pay for transportation.
No, not unless there's something set up through special education. So if someone goes to a magnet school,
Let's see.
that's,
It's only like $5,500 a piece.
yeah. They also get their funding from the state. But
Oh,
that's
that's
our-
right.
That's our tuition that we have to pay
That's
now.
all. And then we get the state money, okay. So we don't pay the whole thing.
That's not a per pupil cost.
No.
That's
And you
a
just get-
tuition cost to us.
you just
It's
get
not a
the bill.
total cost. Right.
There's no negotiating and stuff.
Right, but when I was surprised it was so low, I thought we would pay more, but I forgot that the state puts in some money. Okay.
I talked to you about unfunded mandates. Teacher retirement evaluation is every 3 years. And so there's $11,000 back in for next year that we have to do. So Donna just gives me that number and we put it in. That's what we have to do.
So it's every 2 years? Because it wasn't.
This is every third year. It's every 2 years. It's like every, however you want to do the same, yeah. Legal fees is the same. It's flat. Copy maintenance, you can see. School messenger is what we use to send out our messages when we have affiliate openings. And it's also our website, I think, is built into this number as well. IT support, Power School hosting, and STAR. You see that number went up. This is a $30,000 difference. Not core, sorry. Custom computers. Didn't realize they were charged. They had the 1.4. I explained this to you, I think, a little while ago, and it was just 1.0, and now they're billing us for the 1.4, and this is a big portion of that amount of 1.4 is our portion of custom computers. This is a shared service with the town, and so Eric and I collaborate on this, and so there's 47% paid by the board and 53% by the town, and we all benefit from the service. Telephone, internet, postage, board clerk, English language learners, homebound. I took out the homebound. I zeroed that out. It's not been used in the last couple of years. It's only $1,000, and I figure if we can find an area where it's not.
And what would that cover?
If anybody is needs a homebound tutor, so can't leave the house. It's anything that's under 504. Could be special ed. Could be discipline related. There's a lot of reasons you can get a tutor. You can see the section 504 items there. We're responsible for the audiological repairs. There's phonic ears in many of the classrooms. If a mic breaks, probably half that amount. They're expensive. The teachers wear them. Mandatory training, we put back in.
How many of those do we have?
Honestly, I don't know at Hall if you all have those.
Yeah.
I believe all the teaching classrooms.
All the classes.
Yeah, I know Herb at Center, all of them do, and all of them at Hall do.
Mhm.
Although I'm not sure some of the UA folks have them. I know Art does, Montgomery does for Spanish. I don't think there's one in the gym, and I don't think there's one in health. I don't know. There you go. The mandatory training for staff, that is the de-escalation training. Again, that's a mandate for us that that was the mandate that initially they came out and said every staff member has to have this. We put a plan in place, we trained everybody, and then they said, we're going to change our mind. Not everyone needs it, just your crisis team now. And so that is the money to pay for the training. That money is actually budgeted to pay for our retired pupil service director has her certification still, and she will come back, thankfully, because it is extremely expensive to do this, and we will pay her per diem rates to train our staff for 1 more year, and then our new pupil service director will get trained. That will be in our next budget, and it's like $3,000 just to have her trained. But to train our crisis teams, I think to go out, it was about $600 a person. And it's often enough to do. The tutorial support that was there that's out, and I believe that was a budget offset. That was the, it's not on the bottom, and or maybe it's on the second page. It is. It's on the second page. That was the Title II that we had moved. And so now that's in Program 6. As applied last year, it turned out that wasn't the best use of those funds. This is the only new thing in the budget. And it is security related, and it was something that we've talked about with the security team at both schools, which is another mandate that we're required to have all sorts of people on it, and Michelle's on it, myself, there's administrators, there's the fire chiefs, we have a police rep, nurse, there's a whole different group of people that have to be on this. And we basically go through the different recommendations, find out what cost-effective strategies we can try to implement to keep our buildings safe, our staff and our students. And one of the things that has come up, and this has been a big push from me, to be honest with you, is public safety officers. When I was in Tolland as an assistant principal and we had a big event, we had 2 public safety officers. They are not police officers. They're firefighters that are trained, and they're in uniform, and they have a walkie, so they have direct access to the 911 dispatch center. they would walk the halls. If there was an unhappy parent for whatever reason, it was that person that was engaging that person. If there was someone that wasn't supposed to be on the property that needed to leave, that was the person that was dealing with it. If there was someone wandering the halls in a place where they shouldn't be, that was the person that was dealing with it. And they also dealt with parking. So I'll give you the prime example. Last year, I can't tell you how lucky we were when we had a car fire during one of our shows. And that person wasn't supposed to be at whole school. They came rolling down the hill and their car burned in their parking lot. The majority of the people in the crowd had no idea what was going on. I'll tell you, if we had a public safety officer there, they would have been on it faster than we were. We still got lucky. But those are the types of events. If you have someone pass out, we don't have a nurse at those events. So the purpose of this is really, you would be doing this, you would hire 2 people, 2 of our local firefighters at their contracted rate. And I've talked to the fire chiefs about this. And basically what you do is any event that we thought was going to be really excessive parking, lots of parents, those are the people that are standing by the door when the event is going on and you're engaged in the event, that you have someone there that's responsible for walking around. So the $3,000 covers about 37 hours with 2 people. I don't know that we use it all, but I put $3,000 in is because as things come up, if you had a big sporting event and you packed your stands, you should have somebody on site. If you have graduation, and I'm talking both schools here, these are folks that you should have in. So this is the only addition I put in, and it was strictly related to school safety. Questions about public safety officers?
On salaries, on the previous page.
Yep.
We still have, do you want to finish this whole piece? Were your questions just about the one line, or do you want to open questions to everything before we move on? You've only got like 5 more lines to finish this whole area.
Can I finish the program first and then ask me?
No, I want to get now.
Okay, go for it.
Okay.
That's fine.
Let me just, the salary figure includes increases, but not all increases. And
What are you asking me? Are you asking me what my increase is in there?
Yeah.
I think my increase in that is 2%. And I said flat, and I was told not to do that.
And that would be 2% on top of what you're getting now.
Correct.
And, okay.
That's for you to negotiate with me.
That's in the administrator's contract?
Nope,
No.
Okay,
on my own.
okay.
When you negotiate with me, that's when you know. But if you don't put it in and it's not there, it's another pocket of money that you have to find someplace else. You may negotiate
Well,
with me flat.
Well, that's very
Except
generous.
we don't generally do that until the spring after the budget's done, when we do the review.
Exactly.
But it doesn't show up here, that's fine.
The 2 salaries that you see there, that combined amount is Brendan and myself. The supplies and materials, supplies for Board of Education, 545, that's such a tight number. I had to leave it flat. And the supplies for the superintendent, I brought down 12%, $1,400 to run an office, making copies and things, and buying paper is not a lot of money. The last page there in Program 9, the others, all of the dues. Some of these are, Casbo is the business manager, it's Donna. The board, Cabe, you see my dues. And some of these items are contractual. And so it brings, when you look at the budget total, you see the increase, and it looks like a huge increase there. And I think the increase at the bottom of the budget total to 409 is simply because you had Jackie as a lower amount. We did have some increase in purchase services though. And you're looking at, easily over $20,000 in purchase services.
I have a question about,
Yes, now we're opening up for all the program non-questions, right?
I don't know if you can answer this question, but how much do we pay for STAR? Approximately.
I want to say 5,400, but I'm not positive.
That's it? Okay.
We only have, remember, it's only second through 8th, so you're looking at probably
So you just pay so many per student?
for seats, yeah. Am I right?
About $6,910.
5,400 was mine.
Yes.
6,000. Okay.
She's got them exactly. I couldn't flip through the time down, thank you.
Thanks.
Well, there's a question about like second page. If I understand right now, nothing on that page is really mandatory. So it's all for our development. So technically we can just, whereas the tide, we can just, refuse to use all this money and just cut them out. Technically. Or there is something mandatory.
Yes.
What's mandatory in this?
So my contract has dues in it. And this is all the administrators, honestly. Dues, my contract has superintendent conference and superintendent travel. The superintendent board of education, or sorry, the conference board of education is only $2,000, and you're about double that of what you have used right now. Because we've been getting you out to things so you can get the training that you need to be, for us to be effective. And it's just no different for me. My conference money that's in there is there for a reason, because to stay current on what's going on about homework. That's a big topic right now.
Yeah, that's opposite direction where we wanted to go, so that's definitely.
Some of those, the up top, I think I questioned this with you, Donna, is I looked at every penny here. Do you have to be a member of CAPE? Do you have to be a member of CAPS? And you don't. However, I think that when you are, I would challenge you to find districts that are not members of their professional groups, because you have a network. I am supposed to have a workshop that I'm supposed to be going to tomorrow morning for CAPS, which is the superintendent's network. When we have legislative breakfasts, that's, we're going for our learning, we're going to change and help write legislation, we're going to provide feedback, we're going for our own learning, and many of those workshops and the agencies provide feedback to us. So if we wanted feedback on policies, we could call CAPE. We get discounted rates on a lot of those. When they do an update on the new legislative rollout, they send it to you. If you don't have that, that's another hat for me.
Or you can pay the lawyer at a higher rate.
So those, I did look at those, to be honest with you, because I always ask the question, what are we getting out of these agencies when we pay them? I would give them one more year.
I have a question. What does REAP stand for? CT REAP?
CT REAP is how we post positions.
Okay.
So instead of posting
So
in the
that's job
newspaper,
postings.
that is correct.
So, but technically, what if we'll refuse from some of those, from the services of some of those companies, what would be the first to go? From your point of view? Like
I would
think,
have to think about that.
like I would say instead of maybe giving them a chance one more year, maybe we should take a chance and just do self-educating a little bit 1 year and see how that goes. Because we do have, everything is open for us. We could try to do self-educating if it's possible. I'm just suggesting. That's 18,000 if we can just.
Elena, I appreciate that entirely, and I left it for a reason. And I left it because I thought it was valuable for myself, for the district, because this page is not about me, there's a few things about me on this page, but not all of them. NASDAQ, we get our projections from for enrollment. You know,
How about Kate? We can talk about Kate, right?
yeah.
You're a big,
Yeah, I think it's essential that we belong to CAIG, because if you have a problem, any situation, they have attorneys that can help you. They work on legislation, all the legislation that was passed at the State House. We have someone lobbying there for us. They provide workshops constantly, you know. They have the Lighthouse program for new board members and orientation for new board members. And that's just a sample of what they do. They'll do anything you want. I mean, if you have a situation or a problem.
A perfect example,
It's quite a bit of money, but it's really worth it.
A perfect example this year is there's multiple bills that would allow a town to be exempt from the minimum budget requirements under certain circumstances. And it's being brought forward to help towns like ours that are small. But it's groups like CAIG that move those forward and make sure that we know when it's time to testify on those, that we can be advocates on our own behalf, and we can't do that very effectively without their information.
Michelle, can I add something to that? So they can also, before you go to your attorneys, there is an opportunity for you to use, if you remember, their research staff. So they can go out there and do the work for you at no cost before you're paying attorneys somewhere up to $200 an hour to do the research that you may not be able to do. They have a research team, and that's part of your membership fee. In the past, this board has discussed that being something that went off the table, and there was one year we did go without, and boy, we could have used it. And it made a difference, and so it immediately went back into the budget. So you get more out of it in services than what you pay into it. The opportunity rises. But being able to save on legal advice before you go to your attorney, they'll do the research so that you're not paying your attorney to do the same research. And it's at no additional cost. It's a significant savings to the town.
My superintendent hotline is connected to that, so and that's literally what they call it. I'm not making that up.
Your red phone or your
It's not like a
desk that you
special
pick up.
phone, it's just a number. But it's basically when I call, it's a legal team and they direct me wherever I need to go. So, and they help me get the information that I need.
And there's also a listserv, Michelle, or you want as
Yeah.
a board chair, and share lots of information. When something
Yeah.
pops up immediately, you're in a conversation until
And that's
Michelle's
what I
the
meant
first to know.
about the information about some of the
It's
public
huge.
policy issues. I'll testify when it comes to the minimum budget requirement this year, because it's something that we face and they need to hear from us. But I wouldn't know how to follow that or what other people were going to testify on that, and some of the kind of coordination efforts that they do, and that happens through the listserv.
And you tried it already, to be without.
We did.
Yeah, I'd
We
forgotten
did.
that. That was about 6 years
It
ago. I
was
think we
about
went
that
off for
time,
1 year
and we
came back
thought,
right
look, we
the
really
next year.
need to save some money, and we ended up costing ourselves probably a little bit more than we'd saved. So,
Any other questions about program 9?
Okay.
I had one other thing to share about program 3. I didn't
Oh, okay. So back to program 3.
have to share, I'm going to share what I shared with you, so you can ask about. One of the questions that was asked of me was, and this has been on my radar, obviously, as an administrator, and then now superintendent, is looking at our special ed program, because we had someone last week that, or was it last week, well, it seems a long time ago, a parent asked about the amount of money that's in our budget. It's about, it's a lot of money that is directed towards special education needs. And it's required, and I have the utmost respect for Holly as a pupil service director, and that she was making good decisions. But it's always nice to have a fresh lens. And so when I got my letter on Friday with the teacher retiring, my first phone call was to Marcia to say, I would like to know can we manage without replacing that person? Could we replace them half-time based upon the current needs we have? Could we replace them with para? She went through all the IEP hours, all the requirements that we have to fulfill, and she said no. All of my ideas just to try and find some savings was no. Part of her job coming in, and I told her right away, was you need to evaluate the program and find out if we're missing something in savings. Is there a way we can find savings without impacting instruction and doing it in a legal manner? Because there's a lot of legal requirements in special education. And so she's only a few weeks in here, and so she knows that's one of the things that she's working on. And so I also asked her about our rates for identification, because there's, we're about 17% students identified. And we've been in district between about 14 and 17% around the last 10 years. 14 to 17% of our entire student body is identified for some sort of special education service legally. We're at the top of that number right now, and I'm sure as an educator, I think rates have gone up. You're seeing higher percentages because in the last several years there's been a push for, you've heard, scientific research-based interventions. There's a process that's been put in place, and if you go through those steps and then they don't make progress, you have to write a referral to special ed to see if there's some sort of disability that they can qualify for specialized instruction. So with that process, I question if that's part of it. We'll find out as Marcia comes in as a new director, and again, I have the utmost respect for Holly, but it's one of those things that I think it's our job to evaluate. Jackie, Dr. Jacoby and I had a couple conversations about completing an external audit. You can pay someone to come in and evaluate your special ed program. You can do it from a couple perspectives. One, you're looking at IEP hours, you're looking at are you meeting your legal requirements of how you're writing your goals and objectives in your IEPs, and you would get more information back from a third party, but it costs money. And sometimes it's, they can be quite a bit of money. And so that's something long-term I think that would make sense, especially after you have a new director come in and evaluate and say, here's what I'm thinking. It's not in this budget though.
Yeah, what I was thinking of, besides what you just said, it's the over-identification, because once you have an IEP, you don't have any choice, you just have to support with paraprofessional and all of that. It's the SRBI process and the identification, which a new person might take a look at and see, are we doing everything we're supposed to? So when you do intervention, you're doing everything you can to move kids forward instead of putting them into the identification. So that's something a new person could do.
And my response back, just so you know, is I don't think we're over-identifying students. I think if we were over-identifying students in Willington, you would see students identified within a couple of years. You would see them move out. Because as new teachers shuffle through, they go, oh, we fixed the problem, and they're out. We're not seeing that. We're not seeing, kids come into get special education and leave. So, but again, it's something, we're always evaluating what we're doing. This is just another example of that, and making sure that what we have in place is the most efficient and streamlined and programmatically correct to meet student needs.
And your 504s are not included in the special ed numbers, right?
So will that have an impact on the budget for this year, or?
I didn't put it in.
Does that look like long-term type of? It
is long-term, and it's one of those things that I'm always looking for grants, I'm always looking for different things. We have a coaching model that we believe in the administrative team, and we all believe that it's important to have someone that's outside the district supporting you. So we found a grant for one of our new people coming in that's free. It's paid for by the state, but you have someone coming in so that you can bounce ideas off, and it's not your boss. your superintendent. It's not a colleague that you're working side by side, you, someone to ask questions. And I think that collaborative piece is what we're trying to get at. Maybe we can find something that, you know, is a portion of an audit. I don't know.
Other questions about any part of the budget, not just section 1? Okay. So in terms of our process, this would be the right time if there's additional information that we need before we move to our regular meeting where we're going to, if you remember, just to refresh you on the process, we'll make a motion for the budget and then we will make amendments one at a time to make any changes to the budget, and then we will vote until we get one that passes at our next meeting, our regular February meeting. So in order for that process to happen, is there additional information any of you on the board need to be able to move this budget or any amendments that go with it for next month? If you don't think of them by now, you can also, you know, send Phil an email, but more time is better, because if it requires he and Donna to, you know, double check some numbers.
I was going to ask you the questions that I sent you an email. The concerns about the cutting of the 2 positions. What are some of the things that you can do to ensure there is minimal impact on students?
Yeah, so the 2 positions, the idea was to take a paraprofessional that's currently working in intervention room and move that person into that space, move the maker space into the library. You have to reconfigure, and you would basically have the maker space and the library. I don't even want to say it's going to be managed by a paraprofessional, and that paraprofessional would then be going out to team meetings and coordinating with classroom teachers, and the classroom teachers basically would be planning whatever it is, what they're going to be doing, and then the paraprofessional would be there to support. Maybe they're preparing items. I mean, it's not ideal, but it's trying to make the best of an initiative 2 positions.
How do they use the maker's space now?
So it depends. So
Is it done during class time or
yes.
during intervention time?
It's
or?
used throughout the day. So there's, right now the makerspace is used during a STEAM block. There's a block where they can just go. But it's also a collaborative space. So, you know, 5th grade language arts, when we did our tour, there was a 5th grade language arts class that was doing a project. They had read a story and they were rewriting the end of the story in their own way. They had to change the ending, and they were creating, I'm going to say the wrong name of what they were. Marionettes, thank you. They were
I should let you if you struggle.
Yes, I appreciate that. They were creating marionettes, and they were going to film it, and they had to show their understanding of the text and why they were changing the story the way they did, connecting to what they learned with the text. So that's a simple example, but there's examples like that throughout. I mean, I pulled out, you didn't go. We also pulled out the Sears Tower. They had built the Sears Tower out of cubes. And, I mean, it's a 9x9 cube, but they built it to scale, and they did the whole thing connected to the topics they were studying math. And so it's student-driven, it's hands-on. They have a 3D printer in there, there's a Lego wall, and it's used for a variety of things. It's still new. It's, you know, STEAM in itself is, I guess, it's a relatively new concept, spawned a different way. But I mean, that's what the makerspace is about, is hands-on activities, and it's a collaborative space where teachers right now bring their classes in for a variety of reasons.
Yeah, but as I understand, when we look at the makerspace coordinator position, that person, that position really doesn't touch kids, it just coordinates. Teachers in the classrooms, they work in accordance with that makerspace with kids. Do I understand it right?
The current teacher does work with students and plans.
And the teacher is going to stay there, so we're not cutting the teacher's position, we are cutting just the coordinator's position.
No,
So-
that position is eliminated.
Okay, so, but the teachers are still going to be doing the
The
job.
classroom teacher could bring their group, their class, to the library makerspace and coordinate with a paraprofessional to do a similar thing.
Next year, if we move ahead with the cuts and the position is not there, they can do that with only a coordinator who's trying to manage 3 different jobs and won't be able to do any of them well. But now, I'm sorry, that was a little, it sneaks out sometimes. The current makerspace person does work with students
And
directly.
does the planning.
And does the planning as
with the
well
teachers.
as managing the space. So it's multiple tasks. It's not only that they set up the equipment for the classes to come and go, and the teachers do the work with the students. The teacher, and they may be collaborating on something like with the marionettes, the language arts teacher would be integrating what they're doing in the classroom with that piece with the videotaping and the sets and the marionettes.
But the classroom teacher doesn't do that part. So they just
They would be there
collaborate.
with them.
They would be there with them,
Yeah.
Sure.
but they plan
collaborate,
together.
right. But the
The
current
makerspace
makerspace person does have certification and does interact with the students, and that's what would be lost.
And that is it's the same thing for the library media specialist. I mean, that's the same setup. That person's integrating, different books in. It's the same setup. They're doing this very similar thing. The piece where basically, Elena, you're taking a hat away from someone and you're putting that hat on somebody else is what we're trying to do. And that someone else is already wearing 5 hats. And that's what Michelle's getting at. And some of our teachers chuckle because, hi Tracy, come up. Yeah, we moved your seat, sorry.
Just trying to, an empty one. Thank you, sorry.
This is the small district philosophy, trying to do as much as you can with the small amount of resources that you're providing. And there's numerous positions like this in the district where, we have people doing their job, but they're also doing 3 other things. They're planning professional development, they're helping with scheduling. She's sitting in the crowd right now. There's a lot of examples that happen like that. This is no different. I'm now taking a hat from the makerspace teacher and from the library media specialist teacher, and I'm taking those hats and I'm now putting them on classroom teachers. Because they're going to be the person that would be responsible. Ultimately, the paraprofessional would be there to support.
And the paraprofessional is currently an interventionist. So they might keep some of their interventionist hat, but not be able to do that fully or as well because they're going to be pulled in other positions.
It depends on scheduling, and it also would put more intervention, I'm sure, on classroom teachers.
So we lose an interventionist.
Who's a paraprofessional, who's doing,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's also a paraprofessional who's not just doing pull-out intervention, it's a paraprofessional who's doing in-class support for a student that might be receiving intervention.
So children will work with their teachers, and paraprofessionals is going to be there to help them provide the material. But the teachers will be working with kids in that particular program. in the
Yes.
kids.
But the call,
So not the paraprofessional takes on itself that the whole
Correct.
Right,
teacher,
right.
but the
Correct.
teacher.
That's
will
the
be-
difference between this year and next year,
So the
right?
teacher will be doing who is a professional teacher.
yes. I'm just adding more to their plate.
But isn't this optional for teachers too? So it may not happen.
Depends on how you
Now
build
it's
it.
happening because of that collaboration. And if you don't have that collaboration with the specialist.
I will tell you that we have some scheduling gurus at Hall School, and this is one of those things that you'd have to schedule. I think when we wouldn't take the risk to not schedule it. You'd have to schedule it, and you'd have to provide support. You'd have to provide professional development to classroom teachers for to be able to implement this. You'd have to provide professional development for the paraprofessional who were going from one thing and now asking them to do something else.
For example, right now we saw a 3D printer. It's not the easiest, most intuitive thing to use. somebody's been trained on how to use the 3D printer. If that person leaves, do you train the paraprofessional? Do you train all the classroom teachers? We don't want to mothball the 3D printer. We want to continue to use it. It's a resource we have at the school. But in order to make use of it, then we have to provide some professional development and training so that somebody doesn't break it the first time they try it, right?
Well, it's still the printer. It cannot be that hard. So you just explain the person how it works, you know. It's a printer.
Thank you.
As I see it, this, the driving force behind our budget are increased salaries, insurance, and almost every other item in the budget. And this happens to us every year when it comes to crunch time. The Board of Finance comes along in their wisdom, and of course they have to look at the whole town budget and all the other agencies, and I sympathize for that. But they always come in and say we have to reduce our budget when everyone knows that it's being driven by these items that are skyrocketing, some at 14% in our insurance. And in order to accommodate that, we turn around and we cut into instructional areas, things that directly affect the children in our district. Some of these items don't do that, but when you get rid of an enrichment program or a librarian who is a licensed licensed librarian, not a paraprofessional, you're really impacting the education of the youngsters in town. And it would seem to me that we would try to provide our students with just about everything that we possibly can, including enrichment, which they need when they go to E.O. Smith and other schools. And I don't think we want to shortchange our kids too much, especially when they have to leave our school system and they go out and they have to compete with other students and other people in society, you know. So I don't know whether there are other areas to reduce or not. But if you think of reducing, that's one thing. If you think of maintaining or even increasing, that's something else. But if we put those back in, we're at 2.9 at the present time. And I don't know what that would drive us up another 100,000, maybe 125,000 in benefits on top of that. That would be up around 4% probably.
Be more than that.
5%.
So that would be one of the things I would like to see probably, if you could put that back in the position and see what that.
Just savings was about $220,000.
And the other thing
If
too
you could
is,
just get the exact number
We-
because of
Michelle,
changes.
the other thing too is, if we almost did it last year, and it looks like it's on the plate again this year to do the same thing. What happens next year? I mean, the Board of Finance and the budget's going to be increase again. And if we do it this year so easily and quickly, next year you have to reduce staff and drive class size up, which I object to, especially in the lower grades.
Yeah,
It is a problem, but I favor keeping those two positions. But don't ask me how to get to it.
Herb, this is, I think Judy used the word trend, and I say trajectory here. This was not easy for me to do. And
We
so,
understand that, we know that.
you know, to go from seeing Jackie 6.9 last year, flat budget, no increases, no change, and I shouldn't say no increases, no changes. We're not building something new, we're not looking for anything to add a new program. That's where you hoped you would see an increase, but this is flat. And she came in at 2.16. Her flat now or her 2.16 is now my 6.99. Your next year is over 5%. There's a trend here that has to change. And I will tell you that next year, if you continue that and there's not some other avenue, you're going to be looking at class size, because that's what's going to be left. You're going to be looking at your class size, you're going to be looking at your UA classes, and that's the only way you're going to end up finding $250,000 in the budget. You don't have $250,000 in supplies. And that's why I showed you that, the percentages of what is really kind of dictated by those insurance increases and the increases in fuel. So, and that's the other reason I sent out my letter prior to this process, which is kind of unique, because I want people to understand that it didn't come lightly for me, and I don't have a good answer for it yet. I mean, Eric and I are talking about solar panels. We're looking at anything we can possibly find ways to save some money. I don't even know if that would save us money, but trying to find something to break this, because it's going backwards, and it's not where I think we should be headed as a district. I will tell you that no matter what we throw at our staff, they will rise to the occasion and make things happen, but at some point it's going to burn them out, and they're going to leave, and they're going to make $10,000 in another district with all the supports in place. And I don't want to see that.
10,000 more, you mean? Yeah, not 10,000 flat, 10,000 more than they make now.
They will make $10,000 more in salary.
Phil, I just wanted to ask you, if it's not drilling down too far, but could you talk about the expertise of the library media specialist and the makerspace specialist? Because I just want to, like the credentials that they have, kind of thing.
Well, I mean, a library media specialist is a really specific certification. So, that if you have that certification, there's no. If you are doing another endorsement, you're doing a totally separate endorsement. And when I say endorsement, it's the teaching code. So they used to have a K-8, and we're getting more and more specific in our teaching codes. Library media specialist is a K-12 certification, and some districts want a certified person, and I will tell you more and more districts are going towards that. But that person's expertise is everything library media specialist related. I mean, it's, you think about, I think the picture that people have in their brains is just a library with Dewey's Decimal System and books, and pulling out those old catalog drawers, which I know, giving bird shivers, right? They don't exist anymore. Everything is, computer-based, and it's high-interest reading, and it's a really specified, it's a specific job. And I connect this, Judy's point about the higher scores. When you have a great library media specialist that goes, hey, Michelle, I heard you're reading this, come see this selection, and knows his or her collection, what they have in the library, and can put books in kids' hands, it's probably one of the most powerful people in the building.
And knows the kids' interests.
That's, and that's why I'm defending it, but I had to make a decision over class size, professional development, and the clubs, and those are the three priorities that I came into this budget development with. And so it was hard to make those decisions, but that's her expertise in this.
And then the makerspace.
The makerspace position is really unique, and it's one of those, when you talk about kids wanting to come to school for a really specific reason, it's the hands-on learning. That's what we're bringing across our curriculum. The days of here's the handout, here's the worksheet, here, solve the first 10 problems in a textbook are dying extremely fast. If some areas, they're already dead. The idea that students are learning and engaged in inquiry-based activities is new, and it takes a long time for professional development for teachers to get that. When you go to school, you don't get that in your classwork now. When you're actually teaching that, that's her expertise. She's helping teachers find creative ways to engage students in learning. I mean, you're rewriting the end of a story, and you can tie to, here's why I changed it, because this character, this is the type of character they were, and so I believe they would have done this instead. They get it, and they're demonstrating their learning in a different way. That's really what the makerspace is about. It can be used in a lot of different ways. You know, I mean, I think people in Willington, when Phil Monty retired in that workshop, disappeared. I think there's a lot of people that were really torn about that. That's a portion of the makerspace. You walk in, you see hammers and saws and goggles, and you know, I don't want to say it doesn't interest girls, but you get some boys that aren't interested in school, and they walk in and they see that stuff. Everybody has something, you know, and you're trying to draw people in, and that's you know, hands-on learning. That's her expertise.
Thanks.
Some of the letters, the emails that I read, and it kind of goes with what we know as well, which is that to attract new families, we need to have a system where new parents need to know that their kids are going to get top education. And when we cut, that's no longer going to be the case. One thing about what you were saying about the kids at E.O. Smith, now last year, because I'd heard that before, last year I had contacted Dr. Melody, he's just retired, the head counselor at E.O. Smith, and he had assured me, he wrote me a long email, he had assured me that the kids who participate in higher level classes or in all the programs is comparable to the percentage of kids that each town sends. He had the numbers, and he said, so many, if you have 20% of the kids coming from U. Smith, we have 20% of kids in the highest level classes. He said that there was nothing glaring. So he supported what we thought, that we still provide a good education. Now, we certainly want to hear from parents that think differently. Obviously, I'm sure you do too. But overall, the impression that I got from U. Smith was that there was no deficiencies in our kids going up. I just wanted to remind you of that. So
one of the things that we're taking on for our long-term planning, and you're going to be hearing about this, is the portrait of a graduate. And the portrait of the graduate is going to be an umbrella for us for all of our district improvement plans. We're going to learn a lot about this in the near future, now that we have a full administrative team. That ties exactly what is going to be part of that, because Willington's expectations need to be the same as Ashford and Mansfield's when they send students to E.O. Smith. Mansfield's been working on Portrait of the Graduate. E.O. Smith has been working on Portrait of the Graduate. We need to be aligned so when students go to E.O. Smith, we know what's expected of them in a lot of different ways. And Portrait of the Graduate is not just about academics. It's what clubs are participating in. It's how you're connected to your school. So that'll be it. I want to know for sure that through those conversations and community input and input from E.O. Smith that we're doing the right things for our students.
Well, can I just say something towards what you mentioned, that the level of education which our schools provide, that's the face of our town. I agree with that. I would say that's one of the faces, but really when people look into moving into Willington, they first look goes towards taxes. And I personally know, I counted yesterday, it just came to me, I counted how many families I know who just this year moved out or planning to move out with kids from our town. You know, just this year, 2 families with kids moved out from our school system, and 5 are ready to move. 2 are going to move out in March, and the rest they are looking for the moment to move out. It's
because there are too many taxes.
It's too expensive to stay here.
In
7 families in Willington.
Because we have one of
We have one of the
area.
we have one of the lowest mill rates.
Right.
No, I know.
Yeah, so
But it's all about, it's not just about
moving out of
Willington.
Willington.
They're not moving to another town in Willington,
Right,
they're
they're
moving out of Connecticut.
Okay, so that, I think that's a separate issue.
Yeah, well, it's
That's one
still,
that,
You
this
know,
board doesn't control.
you know where the talent is. So talent is really a problem with taxes. It's much higher level. So we really want to keep an eye on that too. That if we're just gonna let it go. I agree, we have to find revenues to
I'm
use.
sorry, what did you say about talent? I mean,
The talent, their level of taxes is not, we can't even compare with our level of taxes. We are much better. I can't say, yeah, their taxes are much higher. And they're thinking now about closing one school, and it's endless, we don't want to go there. So, but we really should look for another revenues, and our solar panels will resolve it. Well, we don't.
Well, I want to make sure that we stay on our task.
Yeah.
Because
So-
our task is to come up with the
I-
education budget. There is a Board of Finance that is charged with the revenues and the taxes for the entire town, as well as the other issues. Our form of government is selectmen and town meeting, so our budget goes to the town meeting and to a referendum to pass. So there are, no matter what we vote in February, then we will have to present to the Board of Finance. And they spend a lot of time thinking about the broader picture. I think that we will have to make a case to justify whatever we vote is here, but our task as a Board of Education is to put forward the budget that we think the education mission requires. If we are cutting things because we think the town can't afford them, that's not our job to decide what we think we can or cannot afford. Our job is to decide what the education system requires, and we put that forth. And if it comes back that, as happened last year, or the budget we put forth was cut $70,000, it came back to this table, and that bottom line, we have to decide how that money gets spent. The Board of Finance does not tell us how to spend the money. We decide that from their bottom line. And then what the townspeople tell us through the referendum what that bottom line is. So not that we shouldn't take that into account, it's certainly on people's minds, but I would hate for us to usurp the Board of Finance's thinking when we should be focused entirely on the education needs of our students and how do we provide the education that we think our students need. Because that's really why we're here.
The superintendent mentioned the fact that, with the elimination of this position, that teachers would pick that up and another activity that they would have to include in their already full program. I don't know where they'd squeeze it in, but that would be up to administration, staff to determine. Another area that we should take a hard look at is the curriculum itself. I was hoping that we would have, the board would have, be privy to some of the curriculum, and we have a handle on it, maybe be able to look at a curriculum and that type of thing. But in our budget, the support for curriculum leadership, if you look at program 6, has been cut in half from last year, and it's been going down. The trend is $20,000 and $10,500. Next year it'll be zero product. Okay, but staff development, even in this area, we have reduced extensively as well. Team leadership is probably about the same. The outside conferences, about the same. But when you get into teacher workshops in-house, it's the same. But professional workshops is cut. And last year we spent $76,000 on curriculum and the development of curriculum. This year we're spending about $58,000. In other words, we say we're doing all this, but we're doing it with less money each time, which means that as far as professional development is concerned, we're not providing as much professional development for teachers, or it's done in-house, in some fashion. So that, as I say, I don't know the answer to this. We are providing some money for the development. But we're not doing very much in this area, I don't think, at this time. At least it doesn't seem that way on dollars spent, because staff members are the ones that are going to be developing the curriculum right now. They're straight out in all these other things that we're throwing on their plate. I don't know how they would do this. I mean, we have a few professional development days during the year, and they're probably very well done. But as far as curriculum is concerned, I don't think we're impacting it the way we should. We're not devoting enough time to it, and we don't have the resources for it. And it's kind of fish out of water.
I'm also concerned that we've cut the instructional supplies so much. As a previous classroom teacher, I know what it takes to run a classroom in terms of supplies. Also, we're developing a curriculum, and a lot of that is hands-on materials for the kids, which costs money. So we've kind of reduced the amount of money that we have to buy those types of materials. So that concerns me a bit too, that we're cutting the supplies as well.
Are you concerned because you think teachers will make up the difference out of pocket? Or you think the education provided will be lower? Or because of recruiting, they'll go to places where not only they'll make more money, they'll have more budgets? Can you be more specific?
Yeah, well that's...
Okay, yes, sorry, I was hoping for more detail, but...
Check. No, but
Okay.
I do feel we're working very hard on the curriculum. We have been for several years. And the best curricula are the hands-on. We've been talking about that in terms of the makerspace, but also math manipulatives and all of that costs money. And as we develop the curriculum, we're going to be needing more and more of those. Even just paper, pencil, just to be able to run the classroom. And teachers may have to, I don't want to see them have to buy them themselves. I know my granddaughter's teacher made a comment about, well, the bags are ripped because I bought them at the dollar store. You know, but the teacher shouldn't have, well, hopefully she got reimbursed to buy them at the dollar store. But, you know, that's a big concern to me. I think we need to provide the teachers what they need in order to be able to enhance the curriculum, get what they need, and
I know one of the parents' emails was saying that years ago, parents were given a letter of supplies needed, and no parents went out and bought them. And why can't we do that anymore? Why do we have to supply everything to the kids? What do you remember? What the change? Why that was changed? Because I knew in my school the same thing happened.
That said no, that they're not doing anymore?
No, that we buy everything for the kids.
So-
The district buys. I don't buy.
Part of this is maybe my philosophy, believing that if you're going to provide a free and appropriate education for a student, that you should be providing the materials that they need to be successful in the classroom. Our free and reduced lunch rate, which means that there's families that are not making as much money at home, to ask them to go out and buy $100 worth of supplies is easy for some people, and it's our rate is not low. And so I appreciate the emails where people will offer that and offer to do fundraisers, but ultimately I do believe it's the responsibility of the district, you know, to purchase paper and to purchase notebooks and to purchase pencils. I just think it's our responsibility to do that. The savings to ask people to go out and do that, it's minimal, an $8 million budget. The other piece is that, you know, you get the match of the Nike Air Jordans versus this, you know, and I'm making a sneaker reference here, but, you know,
Thank you for clarifying.
I don't know what whatever
I know what
the
you're
lower end is. I mean, you know, students notice that when you put the same thing in every student's hands, it levels the playing field, and the student that might not have as much at home feels like they're valued, and they are. And we want to make it, that's why it's just my philosophy. This past year, August, that letter, you know, came to my desk before it went out to parents, and I said, no, thank you. There's title money supplies left, pay for the supplies, and we paid about $4,000 of supplies. That whole school, I believe, was around $4,000. purchase those items, because I think if we're having students coming into our building, it's our obligation to pay for it.
I don't know if I heard incorrectly, but was there $1,000 for art supplies for the art teacher or something?
Next year?
For the entire art program?
No, she's got
Was
like
it, or was it her
3,000, I
Maybe
think.
I'm misunderstanding.
Center school has always been lower, and Hall school's
Maybe
been
1,000
higher.
in one school and 2,000 in
Yeah,
the other.
I think it was not from 4 to 3 or 3 to 2. I can look at specifically if you want to know, but it was lower. And materials are not going down.
No.
Prices are not going down. We shop around. I mean, we don't order from one place anymore. And if we ever order, you know, I always say, what's the shipping? Because I don't want to spend money on shipping.
Right.
I'll let you use my Amazon account.
Another area too that I'd like is with the elimination of, on the library budget, for example, the, usually you go to the library and you find, you know, books and things like that, periodicals. And in this budget, that particular area has been slashed considerably. I think it's 0 or something like that.
What's that mean?
Yeah,
That's
so you,
absolutely.
I mean, so you have a library, and you don't fund it, you're not buying any new books. Must be new books coming out. And the other thing too, and I asked this the other day about, I guess they're not using textbooks in classes anymore. And we don't have the money for that apparently. So we're going to Chromebooks,
Readers workshop
computers,
materials, variety.
electronic
Right,
devices.
especially for nonfiction, like articles, you don't really have, you have a lot of online resources that are free, and you don't need to buy magazines. I mean, it's nice to have the magazines, but it's not like you have nothing. You do have resources that are free online.
Remember too, when I said, I wasn't joking about this when I said this, that you've got like if you did this, this isn't long-term. You could not buy library books every year. You're saving $3,000 in this budget that I presented to you out of center school's books and about the same, I think, out of Hall's. But the following year, you have to keep your cycle going because you constantly have to purchase books and put quality books in the hands of students.
I don't know whether I agree with that completely. Well, that's a good policy, you know. As I mentioned, a social studies book, for example, a history book. You know, if you have a Chrome or a computer, you know, I've got computers at home. I get it up and I get one page or something and so forth. But if you have a whole book there, it makes a difference to me.
Well, I don't think they.
You're going to read the whole book, you're going to flick through the whole book, it's there in front of you, whereas on the computer, you just go one little blurb.
They did not move to electronic books because of the lack of money. It's just the time. No, I don't think anybody has textbooks really now. Everybody has it on Chromebooks. It's just something what the time dictates. Not because we don't have money for it.
And not because we don't sometimes use books.
Well, the thing is, it's not like you go electronics, like if you still need books. So for example, when you don't necessarily have a social studies textbook, but you still have kids read books that are historical fiction or that are non-fiction books on the topics of the unit of studying. So it's not like you don't need books at all. You can read stuff online, but that's not enough. You still need to replenish with books that are not necessarily textbook, but they're still like trade books. They're
Some of it too is
fiction,
connected to, and you're going to learn about this when we talk about 21st century classrooms, but it's connected to the curriculum, Herb. And so when the curriculum shuffled, especially in social studies, to local, you know, elementary students are learning about Willington. There's no textbook for Willington. Thankfully, there's a Willington book, and it's local. It's not written for elementary students, but it has the readability that we can use and modify and show pictures and talk about, and they can study and do their own research from. And that's what the standard is tied to. So.
Can I
ask you to do 2 more pieces of research for
Yes.
next week. One is to look at comparable sized districts, kind of the under 500 student size, and look at maybe last year's budget, if that's what they have online. But take a look at what they spend on curriculum and staff development if they do a program budget, because that's one thing I don't have a sense of, if other districts are spending, half of what we spend or 10 times what we spend. I can't place us in a scope of that. And the other is to look at supplies in a similar light, whether it's an analysis of what teachers in similar school districts get to spend in their classroom. But I think that that would be useful.
I'll do what I can.
Yeah, I'm not asking for science, science-based, just, call around and the first one you might be able to get from documents online, but the second one you might have to call around. But from a couple different districts would be useful, even if it's qualitative data, it would help me to kind of put it in context. Tracy, is that a hand?
It is a hand.
Okay.
I just want to, a concern that I have that's based on the whole batch of cuts, I guess, reducing positions, reducing supplies, relying on our teachers to spend, to add to their roles of their already demanding responsibilities, to be that person in the library media center that's the teacher, and being that makerspace person, as well as now taking away some of their supplies, and the fact that positions are being reduced, and it puts in your head, okay, this year it's these 2, what's next? All of this affects the climate of our schools. And the climate of the teachers dwindles down to the climate of the students. Because I've worked in districts that were fantastic, like Willington, and we took tours last week of the buildings, and everybody is happy, the kids are happy, they're engaged, the teachers are happy with what they're doing. And then I am a teacher, and I've worked in districts where positions were getting cut year after year, and morale was really low, and it affected the kids because they knew what was going on. And it changes the environment. And I made a comment a few weeks ago at our regular Board of Education meeting about the energy, the positive energy that I am feeling in Hall School. I've felt it in Center School for a long, long time, but it's different in Hall School now than it ever has been, and I have a 16-year-old, so I went through 5 years of Hall School, plus now another 3, and it's different, and I really am afraid to lose that, what we've been building. And I don't know what the answer is, because we want to be responsible, we want to think about presenting a responsible budget, but we want to keep that, what we have. And I don't know how to do that. And I think we need to be creative, and maybe there's some ways we can, I don't know. I think we need more discussion.
Any other data requests or information requests?
No, just quick question. You mentioned that we have meeting next week?
I'm sorry, not next week, it's February 12th, 6th?
February
6th
6th?
is if we need it for a budget workshop.
So we need to decide tonight if we needed
Yes.
an entire meeting to go into more detail, or if we are ready to take the information that we requested tonight and make some votes.
So not next week, but in 2 weeks.
In 2
on
weeks
the
would have been the
3rd.
February 6th optional budget night, which, if I am correct, is also the CIP. The CIP. It's the CIP
We're the
night.
6th at 6, CIP is the
You're
6th at
6th.
6:30.
Yeah. So there might be reasons for us to not meet unless we really have to, not only because we have a number of issues up before the capital improvements committee that we
And
might want to.
we are a meeting behind what we were originally planned for, so otherwise, I would say there's a possibility of us being wrapped
That's not a
up.
decision night?
Potentially.
Okay.
Okay.
So your question about additional data, earlier in the meeting, did we talk about a sort of alternative list of budget cuts that we could do instead of the positions, but not necessarily equal amounts, because I don't think you'd be able to find that. Did we talk about that? Did I dream that?
Equal to the positions?
No,
No.
no, but something that would be budget reductions, but falling short. What kind of percentage would that increase be then? Instead of 3%, what if, you know, are there cuts elsewhere in the budget that we?
It could increase if you put back those two positions, the savings on those two positions,
Right.
would go up to 5.69%.
So then there's
Okay,
only, there's only like
so-
one and a little percent, all the other cuts together make up.
I can run like 10 different scenarios if you're looking
No,
for
we can't do that
scenarios.
many votes, please.
No. Just if you want information, I'm not sure what, I mean, I can give you information on what each, you know, the supplies and the money on PD, but
Well, the
yeah.
reason I'm asking it is because the only reason I really think personally that we need another budget session is because I wouldn't know what to say we would do instead of just saying we want it all.
that's why.
Even though
I agree.
I think we could make a case for wanting it all. But I think, you know, the number is 6%, and that's, you know, that's a steep number, and, you know, we understand why. And we understand that year over year, we're gonna be seeing the same kind of growth, because contractually, that's what life is. But I guess I'm just wondering, is there a moderate response to some cutting without taking the positions off?
Yeah, I mean, I can add, that's what I'm saying, scenarios. If you're looking for me to go in either direction, I'm not sure what the other direction is,
Very, very high.
because the other direction is
It's really, it's like 1.5%. So if we went from, you know, the 2.9 now to like, you know, 4, we might be able to cut every other optional program, which we've included in here for a reason, because we believe that professional development is important, because we believe that as part of the getting to know people and asking questions, we heard very loud and clear that extracurricular and enrichment activities after school were something they wanted to keep in. They wanted to keep sports without requiring pay to play. So some of that
Right.
was based on input we already had. Any budget could have 100 scenarios, even 10 scenarios, and some of us would like some of it and not like others. So the struggle we had last year with the votes, and the reason I said, please don't make us do that many votes, is because every one of us would pick a different scenario that we liked better. And I think that the reason we chose the budget process to do it this year is not to necessarily do it with a package. I don't think that there's a package of cuts that could neatly be put together that says, okay, we'll keep the positions in, but we will cut all of this and we'll get to, you know, 4.9%. It's not, if you would like him to come up with 1 or 2 scenarios, I think that would be an option, but he would then be able to show you all of the pieces that would be cut to get to that, if that's what you're looking at. You could probably do it, you know, looking at this now, because of this, on the summary page, there was that piece, if you put the 2 positions back in, all of the rest of those, you can add up any others that are left and add it to that number. But he can do that same arrangement, but I would ask that you limit it to 1 or 2 scenarios and not.
Well, I'm not asking for, you know, an array of choices, but what were you gonna?
What I was gonna say is that I assume that what Phil submitted is what he thinks, where's the least painful cuts are going to be. So to me, if I ask him for another scenario, it's gonna be something that he doesn't necessarily believe in. You know what I'm saying? As painful as that is, I kind of trust his judgment on saying, okay, there's really no other area where you can cut to get that kind of savings. Besides supplies, which is a nominal amount, and the 2 positions that are not teaching positions.
Well-
They're still teacher positions, but they're not classroom teachers, I should say.
I guess from,
I can't imagine any other scenarios that would be acceptable to him.
right,
You know what I'm saying?
right, no, I understand that, and I can tell them that there's been a lot of thought applied. I think I'm kind of going off my own experience from years of doing newsroom budgets at the Hartford Current. And that is that budgeting is, in someone's world, a somewhat arbitrary thing. There's a number you're supposed to hit, and you jump through hoops to hit it. And I guess what I'm saying is, 3% or 6% growth, both of them are somewhat, arbitrary in a fashion. And I'm looking at what do you do to sort of be good citizens taking care of the finances in the town, but also protecting the gold, protecting the stuff, the treasures. So I'm trying to look at, is there, what would be the impact of trying to retain the positions, but do everything, leave no stone unturned. For instance, even as board members, and I appreciate that we do, I'm the newest one here, so I appreciate the need for training of board members. But I appreciate more the staff development piece for the teachers of our kids. But, what if the board, just ended up paying the freight when they go to a conference? I know we've tried to remove that, but, I wasn't part of removing that. I understand the sense of it. I'm just saying everybody's sacrificing in this town, so I just wanted to think about it a little differently.
I like it. I like it that we really can take responsibility. If I feel that I need to go to the conference, I'll pay myself. Or like, for example,
So I think I don't want to go too deep into this, because I think that what we're looking at then is when we get to the budget voting process, one person will make a motion for the budget as it's presented, with the tweaks that we've talked about earlier today. And then every one of you will have an opportunity to make an amendment to cut or add something into the budget, and then we will vote. So if people want to cut that, we can do that. I think we have to do them line by line. I don't think we can do
Plan A or Plan B.
right. The one exception might be the two positions in fringe benefits together, because they cut across program lines. Right, because it messes up the
Correct.
the fringe benefits for the position. So
Right.
that would be the only
Line
thing.
by line.
That if Steph felt that we needed to cut I'm just going to jump to the line, what we were just talking about.
School board
This
conference.
system-wide support to eliminate CAVE and the Board of Education conference line. So.
and not just eliminate.
No, what I'm saying is that if we were at the meeting, Steph could make a motion to eliminate the, $2,000 in the CAVE, or whatever the amount is for the CAVE conference line, and plus the amount of whatever that membership is, and you would have the specifics if you go down into the detail, to cut those out of here, so that you could make a motion, and if people wanted, and it had some momentum, we could then vote, if there were questions, and it might be, well, what exactly is the CAVE membership line, because it's combined with two things here. We could vote to do that. And if you felt there were, a lot of cuts that you could make, you could, I suppose, offer a package of, these are all of the cuts that you would have us vote on all at once. I think that would be the only other option.
You're going to get in the real nitty-gritty.
I know, it's going to get...
Line by line in that, you're going to be asking Donna and I to pull out exact figures where there's multiple things combined together. And so I think if there's questions about something that, I want to bring it back to this budget process handout, because this is my guide with our 3 values.
That's under tab 1.
And so if you're questioning something else that's in the budget that was not cut and you're looking to replace, I'd rather know that ahead of time, so then we can just make an adjustment behind the scenes and give you an updated file And you can see the cost of this was this, because on the fly in a meeting
Yeah.
is not line by line.
Okay,
It's
so
really
how about
challenging.
this for a process then? If anyone feels strongly that there are additional cuts or a package of additional cuts, one scenario per person, that you would like to see changed in this, you could put forward and request the specifics of what that would do to the bottom line, so that you could come back and say, you know, that would cut X amount of dollars.
So you want us to do that?
I'm not saying I want you to do that, no, I'm
No,
saying,
if you're willing.
no, I'm saying, if somebody wants to make a package of
Right
cuts, no, in the next day or two, to get back to Phil, so Phil and Donna can calculate out what that would cost, so that rather than do it line by line, do it as a scenario, but not have us come up with the, oh, what would this scenario be, and that scenario, and this one, but allow each individual one of us to say, these are the additional things that I think would be there, and then we'll hold, after we put the motion forward, we can take a motion, and you could put forward your scenario of what you would cut, and we'll vote. How's that for a process? What do you think, Herb? You're a parliamentarian, if it doesn't pass the Herb test.
It's okay, but if they come in with a package, there may be some things that they feel very strongly on, and others are in that package, or aren't quite as meaningful. I don't know whether a package would do it.
The only way to do it then would be line by line, and the alternative option is, well, I only want this cut if I'm gonna get it with these other ones. I'm not gonna cut it, you know, and hurt just the art program because that's the one we voted for first.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there's a good or a bad.
So I'm not sure, let me try to understand what we're saying. So what you're saying is, come up with areas that we think we should cut. For example,
Okay, so wait, before you go any further.
yes,
Things you would cut or things you would add back in. If you feel that you would like to
Right.
see, you know, art
other
supplies
than,
tripled,
other
and
than
that's what you
we
want to
have
do is triple art supplies. You know, and that's your scenario, whatever it is, that if that were your package, Phil could come back with, to the bottom line, that would do this. So that each of us would have a bottom line, and it would not require them to do 8 million changes. Is that, Donna, I'm putting a lot on you, is that the lesser of two evils, or is that, am I?
Because we can make sure it's correct at that time,
But
during a
some of the
meeting.
things we can do ourselves. I mean, if I cut $2,000 for the conference board of education, let's say we don't want to go to the conference, we are willing to sacrifice that. That's $2,000 less. So I'll take out $2,000 from the $8,500,000 budget.
Now we
That-
only have to find two.
So-
Right. But I mean, every little bit helps. I'm willing to forego my conference.
I don't want to twiddle at the edges of
Yeah, but
an
there
$8
is.
million budget at the start. If we got to a point where we had put through the scenarios and made those motions, and people still felt strongly that there were, you know, one or two areas that they wanted to change, and we were not beside ourselves with despair at that point, I think that it would be okay to make motions on a particular line. I don't want to take a piece of a line, however. At that point, we cannot ask Donna to say, well, the piece of that line that is the CABE, right. So instead of saying, so on that one's section 9, the second page. So instead of saying, I'm going to take out just the CABE membership, I would only accept motions that eliminated that entire line at $4,881. Because that's not fair to Donna and Phil to have to try and recalculate every one of those for every piece that we feel may or may not go. And really the difference that makes at that point, let's start with where we can make the biggest difference. And, you know, I'm not going to say you can't put that in, but make that part of your scenario.
Yeah, I guess my question would be, are there, in any program, are there items that you see right now that are in the budget that you would say something that came out has more weight than what's currently in?
Or
Because-
is there anything left to cut? I think because our budget is very slim.
I think though what Steph was saying is that she was trying to create a balance, to put the positions back in and maybe offset it with some other smaller cuts. But she knew it wasn't gonna be equal,
You're right,
right?
it's tighter than tick. I don't know what I was, I don't think I could.
I can tell you, I mean,
And it's your budget.
we did- I mean,
You're managing it.
we've
so.
gone through all these things, and I can tell you, you know, I could look at athletics, and you're gonna save probably $30,000. You're gonna have an army out here, and you're cutting programs for kids. One way or the other, you're going to impact programs that we have. You're gonna look at the wealth program, there's $18,000 plus transportation. You're providing a program for intervention students in special education.
Your test scores are gonna go down.
Those are, you know, we've looked at all those different scenarios, you know, can we have one nurse instead of two? You know, right, I agree, the eye roll is how I feel when we start, I mean, we turn over as many, you know, options as we can without impacting those three areas. That's what got us to 293.
I interrupted
But you
Kiara, I
You're just
interrupted
gonna make a
Kiara.
finish one dime.
That's-
If you go
Right,
through
yeah,
this
yeah.
line by line.
And at that point, we're not making a big difference. I want to focus what time we have on the big changes that make sense. Kiara, I cut you off before about adding in that you were saying, you wanted to like lay out what you understood the process would be, and I cut you off.
No, it basically, we kind of covered it. So, you know, we can certainly come up with, okay, this is what I think we should do, send it to Phil, and then next time we meet, we can discuss the different options. I just want to make sure I understood correctly what we're supposed to do.
We'll talk about the timeline, but yes, it would be that we would give Phil by a certain date what our scenario would be. If there are significant changes we would make to this, put them together, and he would give us back at a later date to be determined what the impact on the bottom line would be for that package of scenarios.
And this is a change. We just change it. Accounts, is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying that.
You're adding and subtracting. What are we doing?
So say in Steph's case, and I'm totally putting this on you, I have no idea, but I'm using your example. It sounded like what you were saying is you would consider a scenario that might put the two positions back in, but cut out some of the other pieces in here that were, in her mind, less essential. So maybe she would cut out the Board of Education conference line. Maybe she would reduce the lawyers because she's got it in for them or something. I don't know. So whatever it is, she would give that list to Phil. You know, tell me what the bottom line.
How is she going to come up with, what, 150,000?
She's not, and she didn't.
You have a little vague.
Okay, so we run the school with no soap and no supplies. Yeah, you're correct. You're correct that it would not remain at the same percentage. That's why we want to know what the impact on the bottom line would be, because I think we all agree there is no way to add the positions back in and get it back to 2.9% without merit.
No, and my intent is
Yes.
just to figure out a way, you know, to preserve the positions, frankly. Because when they're gone, they're gone.
Yeah.
They're gone.
Okay, Tracy and then Ann. Sorry. Do you want Ann first?
No, I'm confused a little bit. I'm not confused, but I wasn't here for the first half of the meeting. I apologize for that. So I may be asking a question that's already, that I've missed. I feel like the first two meetings was a lot of hearing about the programs without a lot of discussion. We each got to make a comment, but there wasn't any back and forth with people talking about our feelings or what we thought of the reductions or anything in them. And so, and I don't know what happened before I came. So I feel like maybe we need more time for us as a group because we might both be thinking about the same things. And so I'm in my living room saying, oh, well, we could do this and this, but if I had somebody I could bounce those ideas off, we could come up with scenarios as a group to present to Phil before the February 12th meeting so they could come back with some ideas.
We still have the February 6th date set aside for a follow-up budget workshop. So we could, at that point, bring all our scenarios together and have a discussion. Say yours and Kiara's are, 80% the same, then you could have a discussion about those pieces that are different. Or, maybe there's some feeling that there's, a big piece or another. I don't want to do a straw poll or or vote on any one proposal or scenario until we see what the bottom line piece is. So it does sound like what you're proposing is to meet on the 6th and have further discussion.
I feel
that would be helpful.
I feel myself, and I feel a sense in the room that we all have a lot of questions in our heads about what direction we should go here. Just from the conversations I'm hearing, nobody would be gung-ho about what we have here, but
Yeah, you did not miss the discussion. We were talking about specific pieces of this. So you're right that really hasn't happened to a great degree
and
yet.
it seemed like last year we had a lot more opportunity for that. Maybe it's because we had four meetings versus 3.
That could be. Ann?
So could you just clarify percentage-wise, the budget as it stands is what percent increase?
2.93.
2.93. And if you put that, the 2 positions, what does that bring it up to?
About 5.69.
5.6. Okay, thank you.
That's why I said.
Okay, so,
go back to those pages.
Yes, I'm like, I calculated, but it's right here.
So what I've heard so far is that people felt okay about the scenario process, about bringing that to a meeting on the 6th and having further discussion. Is there someone who has a different thought about process, about how that might work? What do you think, Elena?
No, I see
Heard? Okay. Steph, you are the one person who sits on both
Yes,
committees.
I know.
So I would hate to do that to you, and we have.
Do we have flexibility in time so that we
Well,
don't?
so the discussion was, if you don't mind, when
No.
we set CIP, that you hadn't set that meeting, that was as needed.
And what time is
So
CIP?
It's 6:30. So there's no opportunity for the staff to sit on the Board of both meetings, and it's a night we're really just starting to go through CIP and kind of set things for February 11th potential
Can we
final.
change our time?
Is
So-
CIP in this building downstairs?
It's in this building, we're all over the place, so
You're not sure.
I'll tell you where
It
we're.
would be kind of excited going up
And we may, if we're up here or down there, maybe because there's somebody else meeting.
Go up and down.
We are downstairs.
We have enough time.
As long as we.
I don't know that this room is available, but I know we are downstairs.
I mean,
Some of us have different times that work or don't work.
We can also take a look
I
at
would
CIP
prefer-
tomorrow night and see if we can alter our CIP date. We
Yeah.
chose that date because your date wasn't set, like it
Okay.
was.
So there's a chance maybe you guys can move the date. not us.
We meet tomorrow, so I'll propose.
That's the okay with you?
yeah, because honestly, the board needs representation
Yeah.
and beyond staff
Yeah.
who's on.
Yeah.
so-
We want to go to that meeting.
Could we do it at
I
6?
represented those projects and.
The problem is
I'd like
that
to
some
be there
people
for
have
that.
classes and other things, they can't get here before 6 is kind of the earliest, that's really what.
6:30 was about that time for
I can have
CIP.
Brendan, well, we can
And
just
it
cancel
will-
the February
it'll
6th
be
meeting
long.
and repost a special
Okay,
meeting.
so
Or-
what we are agreed on is we want to have an option to provide scenarios to Phil and Donna to come up with their impact on the bottom line and then have further discussion about it. So that we can make an informed discussion and not take up all of our time at the meeting where we're going to vote on it, but to have that one more discussion so that we'd have the full time together. We cannot guarantee what date that will be. We're hoping it will be the 6th, and CIP will be able to be moved to a different time or date so that we can be at both meetings. We are not set in stone that this meeting has to be on the 6th. If for some reason, you said you're going to know tomorrow for CIP?
Yep, the CIP meetings tomorrow night, so.
Okay,
I'll propose
so
it.
please check your email, and we will also post it online on all of our regular website places for the date, time, and location of the next budget workshop, which we are hoping will be the 6th, to do that. If, in order to do that for the 6th, can we get you our scenarios by Friday? You want an email from, and what timing in terms of, to give you a chance to figure out the impact on the bottom line?
We're
Monday?
speaking, we need a couple days.
Okay, so
On the spot, I don't like because
Over
I
the
don't want to have
weekend,
missing
I-
numbers.
over the weekend, for those of us who work during the week, and
Honestly,
really
if
do
you
board
get us
advice stuff over the weekend. So what I'm gonna say is that by Monday morning, please get an email to Phil with your scenario if you want him to do some additional number crunching. You can certainly do your own option here, but if you want him to, for example, separate out a line or do any additional, what the impact on the bottom line is, such as calculations that affect fringe benefits and things like that that are, more complicated.
Yeah, what,
Get him information by Monday morning, and then we'll be able to have that
I
for our conversation.
just want to make sure, I'm not going to rerun these pages though. I'm just going to do
No, please don't
your
kill
scenario, okay.
Yeah.
Just
But-
making sure that
No,
you're not requesting
Yeah.
that.
no, but you can do a scenario, you know,
Yeah,
steps
that's
in order to
exactly
say
how
boom,
we'll
boom, 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 impact of the bottom line is this.
I'll do it just like I did the budget
Excellent.
process. And if anyone wants to meet with me to talk about their thoughts, I'll be glad to do that.
Okay. We will come back and give everybody on the board a chance to do present to speak also after we invite the audience if they would like. So you will get your last minute comments, but those of you who have watched us process in front of you and torture ourselves over both numbers and process, we thank you for your patience sitting through a civics lesson in many ways. But we do want to hear from you if there's anything you heard tonight or anything you didn't hear tonight that you want to tell us about, what you thought about the process, what you thought about. Okay, the only thing you shouldn't talk about is the temperature in the room, because there's not a lot we can do about that.
It's off.
Yeah, it's off. But apart from the temperature, if there's anything you'd like to comment, again, please state your name and address. It's too warm. Okay, so one of us is very happy with the temperature. If we would ask that you state your name and address, and I'm going to ask you to limit your comments to 5 minutes.
Hello, my name is Jeff Bienvenu. I'm an 8th grader at Hall Memorial School, and I live on 75 Timber Lane. And I have a couple of things to comment on. The first is that I think what the students really need at our school is to have a consolidated on curriculum, because I've been in the school for 3 years and had 3 different curriculums, and there's a lot of overlap between what we're learning. So it's frustrating to go into a class knowing that it's just review. The second comment I have is about the schedule. In our current schedule, we have 3 study halls a day, which is a study hall time, and then study skills in the morning, and together that's 80 minutes of time. If we distributed that time to more core class or STEAM, wherever it's needed most, then one, we would have homework to do at home, because homework is meant to be done at home, and more learning really could be done overall. The next thing is just about the mics. I don't think they're really necessary in the classroom. Really, like, I'd rather have a water fountain or like a sink working. You go in the Spanish room or the science wing, and you turn the faucet and nothing comes out. And 2 sinks in the bathroom.
Okay.
And then my last comment is about the makerspace. I think it's a little bit misunderstood. It is used during class time for projects, but also I think it has some potential to be used in other times, like the wind times, wherever it can get fit in really, because personally I like to take advantage of the makerspace, like work with the 3D printer, or right now I'm restoring a fish tank. Things like that. Like, I think that learning should be first with the textbooks, and then the hands-on part should be application, and I think the makerspace helps to do that. That's all I have.
Thank you. It's nice to hear from a student who's actually in the classroom. So thank you very much.
Can you come every time?
Just to note, there are some boards that have student representation on the Board of Education. So something to consider at another time, not tonight, it's not on the agenda.
Can I ask a quick question about it? Because he said it referred to wind time. What is that again?
It's a section in the Hall School schedule, right? Is there anyone else here who'd like to comment?
Judy Freed, 19 Birch Middle Lane. I commend everybody's diligence in hashing this out. It is not easy. I'm very pleased and impressed with Phil's commitment to breaking the cycle and seeing that the cycle needs to be broken, because this is going to repeat itself every year until that cycle's broken. Herb, you spoke about competition between other towns, and I think it was Chara and Elena, you spoke about people moving in and out. I'm a real estate agent. I have clients looking for homes in the area who will not look in Willington because of the school system. They will only look in Mansfield or Ashford, and they want to go to EO. I have clients that are moving out of Willington to move to Mansfield because of the school system. I have never had a client move anywhere because of taxes. I had a client that I kept encouraging to talk to Phil, and Phil's like, yeah, have him call me. Couldn't even get him to make the phone call. Couldn't, and he is now under contract in Mansfield. So that's a significant problem that our town's going to face. On top of the crumbling foundation, which makes our ground zero an unattractive place to buy homes, I have great concerns of the future for people moving out of town. I feel very concerned about the teacher impact for the other teachers that would be left standing and trying to take care of all the other things and wear all of the other hats. They are already probably close to their limit. I feel very concerned about them watching this process and seeing, okay, they're cutting 2 teachers this year. Next year, is it going to be me? And the morale that Tracy spoke about. I applaud you for saying I will keep a flat salary, and I implore the board to not give them the 2%, not because you don't deserve it, but I think you're going to have a huge morale issue if you cut teachers and the superintendent gets a raise. Think about how that will impact the morale and the energy at your school. And in listening to what all of you said, I think it's time for all of you to fight the good fight. Fight for our students. You had this impassioned description, Phil, about what the librarian and the makerspace teacher did. You and Michelle need to take that and go fight that fight with the Board of Finance. And I know, I was at every meeting last year. I know, it's giving me goosebumps thinking about what that's going to look like. But I think it's time. Somebody has to say, we can't keep cutting. We are lean. You were lean last year. There's no fluff in this budget. It's not like anything's, puppies and flowers and stuff. You are as lean as you can possibly be. And when you've gotten to the point that you're cutting teachers, you're going to be impacting our students in a negative way. So please think about that going forward. And I'm there to support you with whatever I can do.
I saw a hand.
Yeah, I moved here for the taxes. I have a major consideration for me. The taxes in Willington were low. That this was a country town, a rural town like the one I grew up in. The schools were made in the 1920s and 1960s. That was appealing to me. The town hall, being a 40s building, was appealing to me. I liked it. I don't want to live in the city. I don't want to live in a place where everything's perfect. The roads, we can talk about that. Other than that, I did have some things that I wanted to ask questions about. Maybe the group can offer some answers during the next segment that you were talking about. I think, Phil, if you could look in, or Mr. Stevens, Phil, if you could look into E.O. Smith and find out officially what's happening here, that would be very helpful. And it should be a measure that we use. If this is a problem, then we have an educational problem. And taking that, for all of you who want to spend more money, taking that metric to a town meeting is much more important than the other things you're talking about. It's got a lot of impact on people. No one wants students to suffer. They also don't want to have to pay large tax bills either. Do you have any, another thing is, do you have any accreditation concerns? And then I had written down here, Director of Faculty. It's spell check, it's supposed to be facilities. I think the town needs to look at having someone who's responsible for this. I keep on hearing things. The water fountains don't work. I had no idea the water fountains didn't work. What does that say to our kids? The water fountains don't work.